Elon Musk has the ambition to set up a colony on Mars. His company SpaceX is readying its Starship for the long trip to the planet. But is the Starship capable of the task? This is a sneak peek into the insane evolution of the spaceship. While the Starship is meant to take people to Mars and was initially named Mars Colonial Transporter, it is actually a versatile aircraft. For example, NASA has tapped on it to land its astronauts on the Moon. SpaceX is even designing it to be capable of shuttles right here on planet Earth. And ultimately, Musk wants the Starship to go embark on missions beyond Mars. It has appropriately been renamed the Interplanetary Transport System. The first mention of a vehicle to Mars was by Musk himself in 2012 when he was publicly discussing SpaceX's Mars strategy.
I'm hopeful that, from a SpaceX standpoint, we would be ready to do such a mission in the 10 to 15 year time frame.
It was going to be funded completely privately, but if you have followed this channel, you would already know that that has changed. Right from the planning stage, the vehicle to Mars was meant to be reusable, as the CEO envisioned numerous trips to move both support systems and inhabitants to the planet. The vehicle would drop its cargo, refuel, and make a return trip to the planet Earth. Elon planned to settle the first set of explorers on Mars by the middle of the 2020s. In a way, the Starship could be considered an offshoot of the Falcon 9, which on its own was an impressive piece of machinery. In fact, in the public announcement of the existence of the Starship, Musk said the spaceship would be an evolution of the SpaceX's Falcon 9 booster, and it would be much bigger. Interestingly, Musk promised to delay any IPO on SpaceX until after the Starship has been making regular flights. Musk revealed more details about the whole mission to Mars in 2016. Further discussing the Starship, we also saw the Raptor engine, a crucial component of the Starship, around the same time. The following year, Musk revealed how the Mars mission architecture would pay for itself, at least in part.
So then getting back to the question of how do we pay for this system?
SpaceX would take on commercial flights on contract using the Mars vehicle. The suborbital and lunar runs would also serve as testing opportunities. The Starship has two main parts or stages: the booster part or first stage and the spacefaring part or upper stage. The spacefaring part is multifunction, as it could be used as a crewed capsule for delivering astronauts to space, for instance, or as an unmanned cargo delivery vehicle, or an interplanetary fuel tanker for refueling other spacecraft. The two parts will each have its own system of rockets named Raptors. The rocket engine will use a novel fuel combination of methane and oxygen. The design improves upon the Falcon 9, which had performance issues stemming from its use of a high-pressure helium pressurization system. By proportions, the Starship is a behemoth, and that is saying a lot in the world of spacecraft where everything is jumbo-sized. It towers above most things at 122 meters tall. Both stages would be reusable, as Musk was planning for thousands of trips to Mars per year. The upper stage of the Starship is very interesting, as it is not your usual upper stage that sits pretty on the booster waiting for enough lift to break free of the Earth's gravitational force. Apart from its ability to function as different vehicles, it is a fully fledged spacecraft that will travel millions of miles in space and stop for refueling if necessary. Making it technically superior, it will land itself back on Earth, as it has to be fully reusable. Its proportions are impressive as well. Whether serving as an interplanetary spaceship or a galactic fuel tanker, it would stand at nearly 50 meters high. To be able to function over long distances in deep space, the Starship upper stage uses 6 vacuum variants of the Raptor engines that produce 3.5 meganewtons each. SpaceX is throwing in 3 sea-level Raptors for descent and landing on both the Earth and Mars. When used as an interplanetary spaceship, the Starship will be retrofitted to serve as both cargo and people carrier, with accommodation for about 100 daring souls. As a fuel tanker, the Starship will be able to lift 380 tons of propellant to low Earth orbit. 5 of such tankers may be required to prepare a Starship on a typical long-duration flight. The tankers, however, will return to Earth to fill up again. A big factor in all of the design of the Starship is cutting costs through reusability. Musk believes interplanetary travel and colonization would become feasible only with substantial reduction in cost per space mile.
If humanity is ever to expand beyond Earth and establish a self-sustaining base on another planet, it's critical that we solve this problem. Whether it's SpaceX or someone else, someone has to solve the problem. And we can have a 100-fold reduction in the cost of spaceflight.
and he is promising big savings.
Let's look at the launch cost. The order reverses.
The Starship has gone through many iterations in its relatively short life. It started life as the Big Falcon rocket, also known as the Big F***ing rocket, which was originally meant to be 9 meters in diameter. Initial design used only 6 Raptor engines, 2 sea-level and 4 vacuum. The sea-level Raptors became 3 in 2017 as SpaceX wanted to increase engine-out capacity and accommodate larger payloads during landings. Serious progress followed, and 2018 saw SpaceX building launch vehicle components, with plans for the construction of the first ship to start in 2018. By March of that year, SpaceX had leased building facilities in the Port of Los Angeles. Bear in mind that SpaceX wanted to send the first cargo to Mars in 2022. Official notice and expression of interest came in 2018, when the US military proposed to use the Starship for rapid movement of cargo right here on Earth. The then BFR went through another redesign, gaining more fins and new names: Starship for the upper stage and Super Heavy for the booster. But in 2019, the Starship lost one of its Raptor engines, making them 6 again. Around that time, SpaceX started referring to the upper plus booster stages as the Starship system. Speaking of prototypes, the Starship has seen a lot. From the very first one called the Starhopper that had to be tethered to the first 2 test flights that saw the prototype not rising higher than 1 meter, to the MK series that had the first 6 dedicated landing legs. The MK1 collapsed during a pressure test and the MK2 was abandoned. MK4 got scrapped as well. The MK3 survived and was renamed Starship SN1. Due to changes in the production process, it boasted stronger joints and less weight. SN3 was destroyed during another test in April of 2020 due to a testing configuration error, but part of the prototypes were refurbished and used to build the SN4. This iteration of the prototype survived several tests, including a cryogenic pressure test and 2 static fires. However, the 3rd static fire test destroyed the SN4 in May of 2020. SN6 managed to complete a 150-meter hop test flight using a single Raptor engine. The SN8 launched, ascended, reoriented, and descended successfully, but it burst into flames at the last moment. The SN9 made it as far as its predecessor, but it lost control and crashed into the concrete landing pad. SN10, which was close by when the SN9 crashed, landed on its legs, although some did not deploy, causing the prototype to lean to a side. The victory was short-lived, however, as it exploded just 8 minutes after it landed. SN11 passed a cryogenic proof test and successfully flipped, but ended up disintegrating due to a methane leak. The next major prototype was the SN15, which completed ascent, engine cutoffs, flip maneuver, flap control, and touchdown, save for a small fire near the base. Let's hear what you think about SpaceX's Starship in the comments.